So, throughout my entire life, I've always been so scared of talking to people, especially new people. And the reason why this was is because I had nothing to say, and I was always scared that others wouldn't find me interesting enough, that they would find me boring and not fun to be around. I remember this one time a couple of years ago, my very first time in university. I was planning to go to lunch with a friend. And I'm walking with my friend to the dining hall. And as I go to lunch with him, he's like, "Oh, yeah, bro, we're actually going to be sitting with a group of people because some friends from my bio class, they invited me. And now I'm inviting you, and we're just all going to eat together." And I was totally cool with that. I had been on self improvement for a while. I had been already practicing my social skills, meeting new people for a couple of years now. So it wasn't necessarily anything for me to worry about. So, I go to the dining hall, I eat with my friend, and then meet this huge group of people that had invited him. And it was extremely hard to talk to them because one, they didn't acknowledge me. And I was just like, oh, like they don't know me, that's totally fine. And I noticed like as they were talking about a bunch of different things. I was trying to jump in and try to like ease my way and like kind of just make my presence known. And eventually one of them talks about a teacher, a similar teacher that me and this guy had. And I was just like, "Oh, you also have this teacher? Do you also have this accounting teacher? Like, what do you think about the class? What do you think about the teacher?" And this guy's response was super dry. He just answered it, and then kept continuing talking about himself and something else. And I was just like, geez, that kind of sucks. And I still try to keep going. And I remember this whole time this group's talking about a bunch of different things. And I try to make a bunch of ideas. I start talking about, hey guys, like what do you guys think about the basketball game coming up? What do you think about it? And I kid you not, as soon as I said this idea and this sentence, somebody said something instantly else, and they just start talking about whatever this guy said. It was almost impossible. I felt like I was completely invisible and that they didn't even know I was there. And this was just one of the many times that I felt that I wasn't good enough, that people didn't find me interesting in conversation. And I hated this so much because I wanted to be interesting in conversation. I wanted to have this social life and connect with others with ease. And I just wanted to do it effortlessly, but I didn't know the secret. I had no idea how to do it. And because of this event of what happened, I started to really analyze and try to improve my social skills. I did a ton of research on how to be more interesting in conversation, and something that extremely helped me was memorizing TV lines. Now you might be thinking, okay, why TV lines? Well, during this time when I was improving my social skills, I was watching a bunch of movies and I was like, these lines that they use in heavy dialogue shows, comedy shows, they're pretty funny and they're pretty interesting. And these lines that the characters are saying, they make the show pretty interesting. They make the whole scene pretty interesting. And I was like, what if I copy these lines? If I copy these interesting jokes, these lines that these actors are saying in the shows, maybe it'll work in real life. So I spent hours watching heavy dialogue shows, comedy shows, using lines that they use, and then I applied it to real life in my own conversations. And from me applying these lines, I noticed that I became 10 times more interesting in conversation. I had people laughing at me more, laughing at the jokes I was making. I had people actually complimenting the way I was just really well spoken and how I was connect with other people. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because in this video, I'm going to be sharing you 4 lines that I've used to make my conversations 10 times more interesting. That took me from this shy guy that didn't have any friends to now having a social life with real friends, not just random losers, but real friends that push me and that I can connect with. I'm going to explain to you how you can use these lines to become 10 times more interesting. I'll explain to you the line, why it works, and how you can apply it into your very own conversations. The first line that you can say to become more interesting is, I'm trying to be like you. I'm going to give you a personal example on how I use this line to connect with someone and how I made a friend in university. So a couple months ago, I meet this guy and we had 2 classes together. And we started connecting and we weren't too close, but we would have small talk here and there. And eventually in one of the classes that we had an exam. So unfortunately for this guy, the exam that we had, he also had 3 exams on the same day. And this exam that we were both going to take, I only had one. So I was studying for this exam solely while he was studying for the one that we had with 2 other classes on top. Because of this, he only had like a certain amount of time to study for this exam, right? So I'm pretty sure he told me he only studied for the exam the night before the actual day we took it. So, I had spent all week studying on this exam, and he only studied the day before. So, the exam day comes and we take it, and, I kind of felt bad for bro. He studied last minute, and I was just like, let's just take the exam. A couple days later, after we take the exam, we get our test results back. I get my grade, and I see I got a 70 out of 100, which was not bad. But this guy, he managed to get an 85 out of 100. And when I realized that this guy literally studied for the test the day before, I was studying all week and he got a better grade than me. I started telling him about it. I'm just like, dude, like, how'd you get a better grade than me, man? That's crazy. Like, I'm trying to be like you next time. Like, what's the secret to studying so effectively? And as soon as I said this line, his eyes kind of just lit up. He's just like, wait, what you mean? Like, how did I study? And he was just like, oh no, like honestly, I feel like I just got lucky. But by his facial expression, I could tell that he really like enjoyed and started laughing like when I said, oh, I'm trying to be like you, man. What's the secret to like studying so effectively? I could just tell by his body posture. And because of this, we actually started connecting more. And we actually started eating lunch after this class every single time we had this class, which allowed us to connect better. And after realizing what had happened, I realized that this line works so much because when you say this to someone else, they're going to think that you look up to them. They're going to think that they're actually doing something influential. It feels like you're actually doing something good and like you're almost like influencing in a way. So this is the reason why this line works so well. The person feels good and they think, oh wow, like he wants to be like me. Like that's nice. I'm doing something right. So now I'm going to tell you how you can apply this line into conversation and when to use it. So the next time you're talking to someone and you're trying to get closer to them, or you just want to make the conversation a little more interesting, find something that they've had progress in or something that they do exceptionally well. Once you find out what this is, use the line. Bring it up in conversation and use the line. So, for example, let's say you're meeting someone for the first time and you notice they have a really good physique, okay? They have like really toned physique, they look like they work out. And if you're someone that is also into fitness, you can just talk to them, bring up the gym and be like, dude, like I can see you have a really good physique. Like, what's the secret to getting like bigger traps? I'm trying to be like you. And when you say this thing, they're going to feel like influential. Maybe for you, it's not fitness. Maybe for you, it's art. Maybe someone has a really good drawing. Maybe someone has like really good writing, a really good piece of art. Just be like, dude, that's really nice. Like, what's the secret to like um drawing or writing so good? I'm trying to be like you. Like, you got to tell me. And they're just gonna be like, oh yeah, like it's blah 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 blah. But this makes the listener or whoever you're telling really influential and really good in their abilities, which is why it makes the conversation 10 times interesting. The next line that you can start implementing is, can I be completely honest with you? And now I'm going to tell you how this works. This line is really special because throughout conversations, right, when we talk to people, many people can be easily bored. Talking and using your voice and hearing repetitive words can be like white noise sometimes. White noise is basically like noise that you don't really pay attention to because it's just like all at once. But when you're in conversation, it's very easy for the other person to get bored or not really like listen to you 100% because maybe they're tired, maybe they think you're kind of boring. But when you say this phrase, this line, can I be completely honest with you? It almost redirects their attention to you. Because when you say that to them, they're just going to be like, oh, wait, wait. Yeah, be completely honest with me. They're going to redirect their focus to you. Let's say you were talking and you say this line, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, what's up? What's up? And in a way, this is just kind of like you expressing yourself. So, for example, the reason why I know this line works so well is because throughout my time in university, there's been so many professors where, when they lecture, it's just white noise. They just yap. It's just rambling all the time. And nobody pays attention until the one of the very first professors that I had that actually grasped my attention every single time was a professor in my human management resource class. And every single time, every single like 20 minutes, he would be like, can I be completely honest with you guys? So, I'm in class and then he's just like, can I be completely honest with you guys? The homework was really impressive. You guys did a good job. Maybe he was telling a story one time and he was just like, can I be completely honest with you guys? This was one of the worst times that I've ever experienced. And every time he said, can I be completely honest with you guys? And then paused, it almost redirected my attention. It's just like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? So, the best way that you can use this in conversation, how you're going to apply it, is find something to compliment it on. Find something that they have, find a common interest that you and the other person has. So, in my experience, I am a soccer fan. I support a certain team, okay? And throughout this team that I support in my university that I study in, most of the people that I have met support the opposing team, so the rival team. Okay, and a couple months ago, when I started going to clubs for the very first time, I meet this guy. Let's call him Tommy. Okay. And me and Tommy started talking, and he tells me that he's supporting the team that I also support. Instead of just saying, "Oh yeah, like I also support them," I was just like, and this is what I actually told him, "Bro, can I be completely honest with you?" And he's just like, "Yeah, yeah, what's up?" Because he looked kind of bored, but when I said that, he was just like, "Oh yeah, what's up?" I was just like, "You are the only person that I've met at this university that also supports this team." And he's just like, "Oh yeah, bro, like I love this team so much. Like I bet you do too. Like have you been to the games? Um have you seen any of the new games? Have you been to the stadium? What do you think about the players?" And he just started rambling and talking about so many different ideas with this team. And that is because this line redirects their attention and actually gets them to realize, oh, wait, there's something different about me. He's honest about me. I realize this and I'm going to talk more to him. So find something. Maybe you guys went to the same city. Maybe you're meeting someone that went to the same city as you. They're from the same place. Be like, can I be honest with you, man? You're like the only person that I've met from my own city. That is absolutely crazy. Or maybe it's something like, maybe you guys have like the same car. Maybe you guys are into cars. Just be like, dude, can I be completely honest with you? You are the only person I've met in a really long time that's also into cars. How'd you get into it? Don't use this with opposing things. So if there's something that they do that you don't, or you disagree with something, I wouldn't use this, because when you say, "Can I be completely honest with you? I don't really agree. I don't really like that." It's almost as if you're saying, "Oh, I don't really like you." It's almost as an offense. So only use, "Can I be completely honest with you?" if you have something similar, like a similar interest or something to compliment them on. The third line that you can use is, "What do you think about people that blank, blank, blank?" So the reason why this line works so well, and it's worked so well for me, because it allows them to open up more. The last time that I used this line was with a friend that I was meeting in my core group for the very first time. I told him, "What do you think about people who don't really take care of themselves in fitness?" And this worked really well for me because it allowed him to open up about many other thoughts. So when I asked him this, I was just like, "Bro, what do you think about people that don't take themselves seriously into fitness? They don't take care of themselves." And he was just like, yeah, honestly, man, I feel like people that don't do that, their lifestyle is a reflection of themselves. If they're not going to take care of themselves, they're probably not going to take care of their personality or have any other responsibility for taking care of other people. And this works really well because it allows you to kind of just see if they're also similar to you, or it gives you an opportunity to make any other comments and branch out to any other topics. So the best way for you to use this line is to also find something similar. So for the art example, you could do something like, "Oh, what do you think about people who say art and like writing is boring?" If you're into cars, you could be like, "Oh, what do you think about people that like, what do you think about car guys? What do you think about guys that actually like are into cars all the time?" And this allows them to open up more and to actually connect on a deeper emotional level with them. The last and probably my most used and favorite line that you can start implementing into conversations to be more interesting is, "You know what?" Now, when you use "you know what," this is also going to be sort of a positive line or a flirty line as well. And the reason why this works so much is because you're almost teasing at them. When you say this line, you are expressing your opinion on something, or it's kind of like a playful flirty vibe. So the last time I used this line was on one of my friends, and I actually used this line to become even closer to her because we would meet up for coffee every single afternoon. And I used this line. Basically, what had happened is she was making fun of me because of my test score. Because I told her that I was going to lock in for this test and I had not done really well. So, she was making fun of me. She was like, "Oh, JJ, you failed. JJ, like you said you were going to lock in." And I was just like, you know what? You're a little bit of a bully. I'm not going to hang around with you anymore. And she was just laughing. She was just like, "Oh, like, stop being mean. I'm just kidding." I was just like, "Oh, I know you were." Make sure to use this in a very kind of playful vibe, because if you be like, you know what, like, I don't like you, like, just stop, they're gonna see it. Ah, he's upset. But if you use it in a playful way, just be like, you know what, you're a little bit of a bully. And something that you can use this to is basically like trying to make fun of them or calling them out or something. If your friend skipped the gym, if your friend cheated on his diet, be like, you know what? You're a little bit lazy. Like, you're kind of a fat bastard. Like, you didn't live up to your expectation. So what is one of the best lines that you can use to give off a playful, exciting vibe. So the four lines again, we have I'm trying to be like you. The second one is can I be completely honest? The third one, what do you think about people that? And then the fourth one is you know what? Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.